Welcome back to this edition of Perspective. And this week we discuss matters devolution. What are the bottlenecks that the devolution has had since we promulgated and started using the new constitution? And on my immediate left, privileged to be hosting Honorable Mithika Linturi, who is the Senator of Meru. Karibu.
Thank you very much.
And on my extreme left, we have Ndege, who is our governance expert.
Thank you very much.
Gentlemen, it's a pleasure to have you. And
Same.
thanks for making time. It's been a while now. Since the inception of the county governments, we've been using the new constitution. Senator, what could you say has been some of the successes that we've had?
Other than even going to the successes, I think it's important for the Kenyans to understand the context in which the political class and every Kenyan voted for the new constitution to bring in or usher in devolution as one of the major chapters in our constitutional architecture. And I want to say that I personally participated in this process because I've been a member of parliament for quite some time. But the whole idea about devolution was to demystify the institution of the presidency and ensure that Kenyans or communities have some kitty of their own from the national basket that they can that which they can use for development. Because in the latter years, you remember, unless you are in direct connection or a link with the executive or the end of state, probably resources or development was a thing that you could not easily access. So it is on this background that we all thought that it was necessary for us to bring in devolution and ensure that counties earned their money to do development.
Yes. And
the other thing, the concept that was also very necessary to be understood was that with devolution, these small problems that are happening in our daily lives in our villages are things that will be addressed by the governor. These problems of this recurrent nature of lack of little money in the villages would be a thing in the past. Because when you look at the constitution, the functions of the county government as provided for under Schedule 4 matters to do with agriculture, matters to do with water, matters that are to do with health, county roads, are all functions that require money. So the whole idea about the devolution was, if these functions are transferred to the village, money is taken, for example, into my county in Meru, the expectation of the voter or the Mwananchi is that even the budgets of those that are supposed to go along with these functions are supposed to be consumed, or work is supposed to be given by those people that have capacity within those particular counties, and hence reducing the aspect of capital flight, because those people and the big merchants, the big companies are the ones that used to benefit from government procurements because we are all based in Nairobi. So this aspect of devolution properly followed would really have a serious impact and change in the lifestyle of our people, because you see water, you see good health care, you see roads, you see people with money in the villages because of the transfer of those functions and the transfer of monies. If the governors, because they wield the executive authority, they wield the implementers, so to speak, of devolution, and if properly and done, then we would really have to do with a lot of problems that Kenya faces as a country.
Thank you for that background. And because of the interest of time, I would like us to really focus on the bottlenecks, because some have really hit the country hard. Ndege, how can you rate devolution as we speak?
Out of 10, I'll give it 4.
Okay.
And picking up from where Mheshimiwa left, he used the term "if properly followed."
Yes.
Yes, because it has not been properly followed. And this is both ways, both at the national government level and at the county level.
Yes.
At the national government level, whereas the Constitution says services have been devolved, oftentimes money has not been devolved. There's a lot of instances where some of the services that are supposed to be undertaken at the county level, you find huge budgets still remain at the center.
Yes.
And no one can explain why those budgets remain at the center. If you look at the county level as well, you'll find a situation where rather than the county executives, the governor and his executive, trying to be a bit more prudent in how they'll structure their government so that they can deliver services, you find a lot of bloated employments and expenditures which are not really austere in nature. So both sides have mixed opportunities. Thirdly is that devolution actually expected that that's the way that the National Assembly oversights the national government. The county assemblies were supposed to be oversighting the county governments, but that has not really worked. We have not matured enough, especially at the county assembly level, to be able to oversight the county governments. So Senate has been trying to oversight the county government, which is not strictly their role. I know they are supposed to do some oversight, but the oversight that was envisioned in the Constitution was one that was supposed to be done by the county assemblies. So that ends up causing some friction between the senators and the governors, because unfortunately, in our setup, this is one oversight function, if the Senate has already taken it up, where it's almost a one-to-one oversight. One senator is oversighting one governor. That's very complicated. And then in the scenario where, in our pecking order, the governor seems to be a higher position than the Senate position, most senators aspire to be governors. So in some of that oversight functions, rather than maybe doing it objectively, they do it in a view to score some points and a view to probably bring down the scores of the governors such that they, as senators, actually appear to be better situated at being senators, being governors in the next government.
In the same light, some governors have accused senators of using their oversight role for the 2022 elections, right?
Yes.
Senator, could you be harboring some governor?
Let me say this, and this can be go on a record, because I will tell you, you know, when we got into this particular system, governors, you remember the kind of attitude that they had, that there was more presidents running counties, and for that matter, most of them, before we came in with the Ambiro, to even strip them the wand and the flags, most of them felt that they were too big, that did not require to be asked questions. And that is where the problem is even now, because when you look at Article 10 of the Constitution of Kenya, the principles and of national values, the aspect of consultation, public participation, whatever matter that you do that touches on the well-being of the people, then you must consult them. Consultation. Article 232 on matters to do with accountability to the people on any administrative actions that you make to ensure resources are equitably distributed to the people. These are very key provisions in our constitution that must be able to guide all of us. But, and when as my friend here is saying, you know, there is some doubt, it's not clear on what the role of the senator vis-a-vis the National Assembly is supposed to be. But I can tell you, in my view, where I stand, Article 96(3) of the Constitution of Kenya talks about the legislative, the roles of the senator, of the Senate, where one of the main key functions is to oversight and of the national revenue allocated to counties. So all this money that the governors are using, more than 80–90% of the money comes from the national budget, from through the County Allocation Revenue Act, that the money we give them. So the governor, the senator, has a role to play in trying to follow up on how that money is supposed to be used. So he has a role. But what I would want to tell, and everybody else, is that the senator or the Senate cannot effectively conduct oversight over the resources given to counties single-handedly. The senator must work in consultation, or there is a complementary role that is also supposed to be played by the National Assembly, by the county assemblies, by the county, by the MCAs, towards ensuring that this oversight is properly carried out. And that is why you will find that in the County Governments Act, Section 9, subsection 2, clearly says that the MCA should not in any manner try to behave as if it's an implementer of a project of any county government. The reasoning behind this legislation is to bring out this aspect that, that the MCA is meant to be an agent for development, because the whole arrangement of the National Assembly, the county assemblies, is primarily oversight, legislative, and representation. And one of the challenges that we face, and devolution will continue facing, is this aspect whereby, for example, in most counties, you realize that because there was never, and there was no paradigm shift in terms of thinking on the public participation, civic education has not been conducted to the people to understand what the work of the MC is, what the work of the senator is, what the work of the governor is, or all these other elected positions. You will find that pressure going to the senator, pressure going to the members of county assembly, asking for water, asking for roads, asking for everything. They do not know that I have no role as a senator to give water, to give drugs to hospitals. My business is to participate in lawmaking to ensure allocation of resources go to the counties. Just like we've stood now, there is a stalemate in the National Assembly and the Senate because of the County Allocation Revenue Act, where CARA, the Commission for Revenue Allocation, has proposed to give 35 billion to the counties. The National Assembly, and this is the executive, so to speak, are saying they do not have that kind of money, they want to give 300. We have so no, we are not going to relent, we will not blink, because we want enough money to the counties. So one of the greatest challenges, my brother, that we are going to we will continually facing is this blackmail from blackmail of MCAs and governors, that if you do not support us, you don't do MBCD, then you will not give you will not see development, you will not this development. So, and the other thing that is even more serious is lack of capacity. I'm the vice chairperson of the County Public Accounts Senate Public Accounts Committee, because we're interrogating books of accounts, the financial statements of every county, and governors are appearing before us. And what we have realized is there is serious lack of capacity in the counties. Serious capacity in terms of having the ability to come up with serious programs that can generate enough business in the counties, that can generate enough projects within the financial year to absorb the money that is sent in the counties by national government. So this one is a serious issue, because I can tell you, for those that we've gone through, there is no single county in the 2017-2018 has been or was able to consume 80% of the budget. My county, for example, consumed
47 counties?
Yes.
Okay.
For example, my county consumed only 25%, which is very dismal performance.
Okay.
And these are the issues now we're asking, and where I want to differ with my friend, that when you come as a senator, personally, I believe the tools of oversight as a senator is the Auditor General's report, is the Controller on Budget report, because the Controller on Budget checks on budget performance. So when personally, what I ask is that when money has been sent, money has not been absorbed, and you can never see development until money is used. When we ask these candid questions, then to bring confusion and for people to lose sight, then governors will say, you know, you senator, you want my seat. Okay. That is diversionary.
Okay, hold the thought. Ndege, can you read any mischief in this? Because we've seen very, very heated arguments, and some governors saying that, no, I haven't misused any county funds, but you see the senator from the same county having a heated debate over the same.
Yes, a bit of mischief on the part of the senators, a lot of mischief on the part of the MCAs, where they don't do their role properly. They end up either blackmailing the governors so they can get some extraneous monies, or blackmailing everybody else, the wananchi, so that they now start getting this development money directly, which is again is actually the act that constitutes the county governments. But bigger than that is the Mheshimiwa has talked about this capacity building. We are in this thing since 2013. We knew, before even we went to devolution, there was a task force by Mutaha Kangu. They actually conceptualized what devolution is going to be, and we all knew. But part of the mischief was played by our legislature, that parliament, which was existing before the 2013 elections. There were some certain levels of skills that were required for the MCAs, for instance, for the people who are supposed to be at the CECs. But because of political expediencies, basically from the National Assembly, because some of them were not able to meet some of these requirements, then they did away with some of those requirements, such that now almost anybody could become an MCA. Almost anybody could become a CEC, despite the fact that they are not competent. Thirdly, is the fact that currently there's this push and pull, like the Mheshimiwa is talking about, between National Assembly, the KARA proposal, National Assembly, and the Senate's proposal. That is really the role of Senate. They're supposed to ensure that there's enough money that will go to the county governments to do their projects. And when it comes to budgeting, what has been happening, why Mheshimiwa is talking about absorption, is that the county governments budget not only with the money that comes from the national government, they budget with the money that they are supposed to have collected themselves. None of these counties is collecting any money. In fact, in most of the cases, the money being collected in the counties is less than what is being collected by the county councils of before, which is very serious, because 6 years, trillions of shillings have been poured into these counties. We expect that the county should have used that money for productivity. The law states that they're supposed to use at least 30% of that cash for development. What do? They use almost 72% for recurrent expenditures and about 28% for development. None of the counties goes beyond the call of the law to say, let me allocate 50-50. Nothing stops a county, for instance, from having 3 CECs. Why do they all have 10? Nothing stops a county from utilizing all these big budgets. Some of them have secret budgets, like I read the other day from my governor here. He has some secret budget where he uses as he wishes. Some of these counties, we saw the other day, when the Senate called them, where you find they are budgeting using templates supposedly for the national government. It's not only capacity issue. There's corruption. The corruption that Kenyans were talking about at the national government has been devolved to 47, let me call them governments. And unfortunately, the national government, it's easier to at least point out the corruption because it's a national government. There are about 419 members of parliament that can actually supervise that. In each of these counties, 30 to 50 county assembly people are the ones who are supposed to be supervising this county government, and they lack capacity. Secondly, they are partisan, because this is now a small unit. So probably this governor comes from maybe our area, our sub-county, and we are 5 MCAs. And then the neighboring county is where the deputy governor comes from. So a ganging up of two counties is enough to ensure that this governor will always misuse his or her powers and the funds that we're supposed to have.
Speaking of figures, there has been calls for a referendum, perhaps to even merge some counties which have a lower population, and also to equitably be able to allocate funds to these counties. Is it premature, Senator, the referendum call, which will also tame the current wage bill?
It depends on the reasons behind the call for referendum. Because there are some reasons that are justifiable. The other reasons that are not justifiable. Which are some of the justifiable in your view? So some of the justifiable reasons to call for referendum, for example, is that as a business person personally, and looking at the economics of the country just immediately after the election, you realize that the upward trajectory of growth is lost just after an election, because people must get, because nobody wants to believe that he has lost an election and must get his people to the streets. And when people are in the streets, you create a lot of anxiety and uncertainty, and business goes down. That way, for a month, 2 or 3, then you miss a lot of things as far as business is concerned. And Personally, when you look at the history of this country, you need to ask yourself why Kenya has to have these recurrent trends after every election. And I've said in many forums, without any fear of contradiction, and this is something I believe strongly in, is because there has been a serious problem in the power sharing structure of this particular country. And until we have addressed the power sharing formula in this country, we are not likely to see this come to a stop. So that's why I'm saying it's important to know why. For example, where I sit, if we are to call for a referendum to ensure that that question is answered, to ensure that we are trying to plan this country for posterity, so that in the elections that come in the future, are peaceful and everyone that feels included or feels that he or she has a position in government, in the governance of the country, and everybody is satisfied, I will go for it.
Ndege?
Yes, I support many of the points that the Mheshimiwa talks about as a need for referendum, inclusivity, proper power structure.
Yes.
But one thing that needs to come out clearly, which is being glossed over, is over-representation.
Yes.
Yeah, we are over-represented. Kenya don't need 1450 wards. We don't need 290 constituencies. We don't need 47 counties. And we don't need all these big governments. We can have inclusion. We can have no fights after elections, but still be lean enough and be represented by just enough personnel so that we don't consume. It's very unfortunate that about 1.5 million people in this country, in fact 1.5% of this country, consumes about 62% of our revenues. Why? Because we are overrepresented. We are paying too much. Yeah. So I liked what the COB they say today to the BBI. It's a time that we look at our structure. Devolution itself was services to the people. There's a way you can bring services to the people. In fact, I liked the model of the CDF itself. We can actually look at devolution and try to pick the CDF model, how it was conceptualized, and make it affordable. People can congregate at the ward level. People can congregate at the village level and decide that you want a school without paying someone, without paying another person, without paying another person, without paying another person. We don't need 10 people to talk for one person. One person.
Unfortunately, gentlemen.
No, allow me to conclude by saying that today I'm a very happy man because of one thing. Before we voted this constitution, I'm one of the members of parliament that opposed it. And the arguments that I had then were that this constitution is going to create a bloated legislature. That was one. Number two, I was saying that if it is about devolution and we are in the CDF, we won't share the money amongst constituencies, and the constitution will be the basic unit of devolution, or I won't, because we will not require all these other structures. So I think let us soberly look at these things without bringing in politics in them, and then we will be able to sort our problems, because I think our problems can only be addressed because they are unique in nature by ourselves. We don't need to go looking for answers from all over, because I think we have the capacity as a country to deal with them, devoid as long as completely political interests are completely kept aside this discourse.
Parting shot, Ndege.
Parting shot is that we need as a country, but part of the governance issue that we need to solve is the issue of the Senate. The Senate either has to be the upper house or we abolish it. There can be no two ways about it. Currently the Senate is a mongrel of the South African model and the American model, and it's not adding any value to our constitution. Thank you.
I am ready to lose my job if that will save the country. Yes.
As long as we save some money.
Yes,
gentlemen, I'm hoping we can get some more time to really talk more on devolution and actually the bottlenecks, because we've just scratched the surface. Well, that marks the end of Perspective for this week. Thank you so much for watching, but business is coming up next.